All right, we're live. Day 3 Market Movers with Justin Perri. We got some baseball games already underway. Let's get everybody in here. Might give it a second to let people join as we did just go live. Might head over to Twitter, fire off a tweet. But good afternoon to you. Good morning to me still. How you doing today?
I'm good, Mike. How you doing? It's a nice day of baseball. I like these days where we have like staggered games and you don't sit around between the afternoon and the evening slate.
Yep. I definitely love, I actually tweeted about it this morning. Something just like the day feels better when I can watch baseball. And in this case, it's an extreme early start today. Baseball before noon here in Nashville. Beautiful thing. I did not get a play on the game, but had some people interested in the under on Twitter. I told them where my median number was, around 7.3, 7.4 runs. Market was 7, then moved back up to 7.5, I think is where it closed.
It closed at 7.5. Interesting game. I think Mets stole it last night, right? Baltimore blew the John Means start at the end. He was stellar again, showing why, again, he might be one of the most reliable first 5 bets in the majors right now. I saw someone tweeting out like who has the best first 5 ERAs, and I do believe he's at the top. But sometimes, bullpens are going to bullpen. So, yep. Right now, what are they sitting at? We have Matt Harvey pitching today against Taijuan Walker, which is a really interesting matchup. Harvey's been the talk of the town, and it looks like Matt Harvey's going to take one for the team and strike out here with men on first and second with 2 outs. But I think I leaned Orioles, but I guess we'll see. Mets look good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the Mets, they're almost, they're certainly not going to be Dodgers or Yankees level, but they have a lot of attention on them this year too. And I think there is, like I said, those teams have 2 to 3% baked in. I think we're getting 1/4 to 0.5% of inflation on pretty much all Mets games right now because of the attention that's on them this year. So I definitely agree with that. All right, let's look at the schedule. We'll probably skip over the Pirates and Reds game. The game first pitch is in 1 minute. Not going to be able to really give you anything actionable there at that point. So we could start with the Chicago Cubs, and let's talk about how awful last night was for them real quick. That was painful. Absolutely painful that they did not win that game. Not sure how it happened, but plus 123. Chris Bryant left the game early last night. Javier Baez is back today, facing the left-handed pitcher, making, I believe, is for one of his first starts, if not the first start. Zach Davies on the mound, plus 123 for the Cubs, minus 133 for the Indians. Did you have any thoughts on this one at all?
This one felt a little, accurate. Hard to really get an edge on it. I know that it feels as though the sharp side's probably the under, but I actually like the over here. I think that the teams are going to get on track. I'm actually seeing the sharp side as over, so that's cool. It sort of agrees with me. But, these teams, they do have a propensity to score some runs here and there, and I don't really think that you have, either of the top starters for these squads going out today. Both are sporting ERAs at 5 or higher. I don't know. I think especially if Brian's playing, which I hope he does play, but I think we could see an over today.
Yeah, Bryant is out of the lineup today. Matt Duffy will be leading off for the Chicago Cubs.
Maybe.
Yeah. So what's the total sitting at on this one? Has it come up to 8.5 or is it 8 still?
It has moved to 8.5, I do believe.
Okay.
I'm seeing 8.5, but the juice is on the under, so you'll get under 8.5 around minus 120.
Yeah. Yeah, I would lean towards the over in that one as well. It's going to be very interesting to see what Zach Davies has to offer. I think that he could get into trouble very quickly if he doesn't have command and puts any men on base via the walk. That's kind of been an issue for him. Not throwing with very high velocity. So we'll see. I was on him last time. Had a great start in the last one. So we've been on the Cubs a little bit. If this line moves to plus 130, we'll start to show value on the Cubs money line a little bit here, even with Bryant out of the lineup. But as of now, I don't have any play on this one. Let's
Yeah, it's a
see.
stay away for me too. It's just going to be tough to really, see the Cubs pulling through. For me, Bryant is a pretty big, spur to their offense a lot of the times. I mean, a lot of the run production does come out of that top of the lineup for them. So happy to sort of stay away. You never really know what a team's going to feel like once a leader's sort of sitting out either. It could always sort of just be a punt game. Like, all right, I'll be back tomorrow. It does happen. It does happen in sports. You really don't know when it's going to happen. Sometimes, teams just say, all right, tomorrow's our day. And sometimes you just got to watch the pulse of the team to really understand that, and it can be difficult.
Definitely. That's important to note there, that it is an incredibly long season, and any one game really is quite insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So it is worth noting, though, that there has been some pretty big line movement in there. Again, a lot of it is related to the Chris Bryant news. Markets typically overreact to a star player like that. Cleveland open -110. They're sitting -130-ish. Cubs open +100-ish, +105. Good 20 cents a movement anyway, which is going to be one of the bigger moves of the day so far. Padres, Rockies. Do we even want to talk about either one of these games, or are we going to kind of skip over it? Just decimated with the COVID news.
The 7-inning games, no star players. It feels a little bit tough to gauge these games and really know what's going to happen. Rockies held an early lead yesterday and then just totally blew it. So I believe they had like a 1-0, and they just, San Diego just sort of caught a little wind under them and put the ball out of the park and was hitting, well hit balls. So that's what's going to happen at Coors. I do give the advantage to San Diego in both games, but it wouldn't shock me to see like San Diego win game 1 and sort of lock down that series win, and then watch Colorado sort of, scrounge out that garbage time game, if you will, and take the game. It doesn't matter for the series. So if you wanted to bet the underdog there, I'd probably say take Colorado in game 2. That's usually how they win these. There's actually been a lot of doubleheaders at Coors this year. There have been an unusual amount. Let's see if the pattern holds today.
Indeed. Yeah, no, definitely no play on it for me. Next game, Phillies and Nationals. Zach Wheeler, John Lester on the mound. John Lester has got to be getting closer to the end of his career at this point. +122 for the Nationals, -132 for the Phillies. Looks like this game is really held strong in the market. We haven't seen a ton of movement on either side really at all, have we?
No. Really not moving at all. I mean, it looked like it opened around 120. It moved around 125. It's sort of came down to like 115 for a little this morning, and now it's back to 120. So nothing like crazy. That's for Washington I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. So for me, I guess the one question mark in this game would be JT Realmuto is questionable. Anytime a catcher, especially a plus hitting catcher, so we'll talk about him, we'll talk about Salvador Perez, guys like that are plus hitting catchers and plus defensive catchers like that, when they're paired with a starting pitcher that they obviously work with every single start, is that something you'd want to pay attention to a little bit, with Realmuto potentially being questionable here for Zach Wheeler, knowing that it's also a road start for him? I personally think that that's something at least worth noting.
I definitely think that that's an interesting point, and something that isn't, discussed very much about, like, the familiarity in literally commanding the game from the defensive side, and calling and knowing what pitchers like to call, and sort of knowing how pitchers like to throw, and knowing how to frame a certain pitcher's throws. Like, there's so much complexity to catching. That, it's talked about here and there, and it's definitely being talked about more these days. But, like, I personally lean towards the Nationals here. I think that it's a pretty sharp play from what I'm seeing. Again, there hasn't been much movement. I think we're on the over. I think maybe the odds on the over moved this morning a little bit up, because I'm seeing some juice on the under now. Let me look. But sometimes, my internet always isn't the best. I'm going to look into all that. But, like, I think it's probably feels like an over game to me, just with both of these factors, and that Lester really isn't the Lester that he used to be. Yeah,
I would agree with you. Basically, I'm saying Nationals are the sharp side in the game. Have some pretty legitimate questions about John Lester if he can get it together and manage this game well. I have at times had some concerns with Zach Wheeler. This is a spot where I would have a little concern being on the road again. Potentially, a starting catcher not going to be available to him. So, no play on the game for me at this point, but something I'm monitoring at this point.
All right.
Next, we've got Garrett Cole on the mound in a positive park shift for him against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yankees minus 182, Tampa plus 166. Let's see where that's at on William Hill. Minus 190 on William Hill, plus 170 for Tampa. Yankees run line minus 1.5, minus 115. Any thoughts on the game at all for you? Anything you're seeing?
Yankee homer. Garrett Cole's one of the best that you can't. That's not really much bias. Again, a positive pitching shift. If you're going to play this with the way that the Yankees have been, seeing how the bullpen has sort of been a little bit like the shakiest part of the team. Rays haven't been all that scary in the batter's box. I'm fully comfortable taking this as the Yankees first 5 if you want to play the Garrett Cole, and I would take it as a spread. Money line, you're gonna eat. You're gonna have to take the juice. You're probably gonna get close to minus 200, if not like actually past it. And I wouldn't do that. I think minus half a run to try to expect them to be winning is a pretty good gamble, right? Again, nothing's 100%. They could very well be tied. I think there's a small chance they could be losing, but would it be 4-0? No, you're probably going to be sitting there fuming over the fact that they left a man on second in the 3rd inning with 1 man out, because that's what the Yankees do. But you're going to have a really good shot for them to be up like 2-0 after the 5th with Cole pitching. So I think that's a sharp play. I am not playing it myself officially, but I might sprinkle a little bit on it.
Yep. No real thought there for me either. Next game, Boston, another frustrating one. They've really struggled the last 2 games offensively. At home here, let's see where they're at William Hill. It should be around minus 150 range, I believe, is where it was. Minus 153, plus 143 for the A's. Total sitting at 9.5. A little juice to the under on that 9.5. Anything you've seen here that stands out?
I'm seeing, a good amount of money on Boston and on it staying under, which is interesting because, I do think the line moved up this morning. It did. It opened at 9. It's at 9.5. So to see all that money on the under is pretty interesting. I do think that does potentially. I don't ever sort of turn a blind eye to what the public's doing because they can be wrong a lot. There's no reason I'm running to this. The only interesting thing might be that Red Sox do go over a lot at Fenway. It is one of the best hitting parks. But other than that, I think these teams have been pretty middle of the pack in terms of going under and over. You don't really know what you're going to get from either of these squads on a given night right now. Neither is particularly hot. Red Sox have actually, maybe come back down to earth a little bit the last 2 games.
Yep.
I don't know if it really feels like they're going to be sitting there being like, oh, man, we have to win this one. They probably want to keep the series close, right? If they lose tonight, I do think that they lose the series. Let me just make sure and check this isn't one of those weird 2-gamers. It's not. They do have a 3rd game. So this makes a lot of sense for Boston to come here and make sure that they have a competitive game for the series tomorrow. So, yeah, I'd play Boston, but I'd be weary. I'm not doing it, but –
Yep. Boston is definitely that I would be on. It's close to a play for me. Based on my little edge in the model would be about 0.2, 2.5, a quarter of a unit would be where I would be on it. But I do have slight value on the Red Sox, which probably is no surprise to any of you if you've seen that the model has been on the Red Sox, a little bit this season, especially lately. Next game, or do you have another thought on that one? Go ahead.
Well, I just want to, quickly share, my thoughts as somebody who has learned about your models pretty extensively, in comparison to most. I'd say I've spent a lot of time studying, sort of how they work, and, they are player-based, right? And so what ends up happening is that these teams that, quote unquote, pop off in your model so often, you do get a lot of comments. Oh, why are you playing the Royals so much? Why are you playing the Cubs so much? Well, they have the players that are supposed to make them this dangerous, right? They have the guys that statistically, Boston too, they have the players that you're going to expect when they go out there, and you have JD Martinez and Xander Bogaerts in the heart of your lineup. You're expecting runs. So, and long run, my guess and what you've proven is that it will work out for those squads. So, Boston's going to be one of them.
Most definitely one of them. The other thing to point out there too is team losing like that multiple times in a row is only going to create more value for the most part. They're certainly not going to continue to get inflated the other way as if they were to keep winning.
Right.
That's definitely something going.
Right. Boston would be steeper. Boston would be steeper if they had won yesterday.
Correct. Oh, for sure. If they hadn't put up 3 total runs or 4 total runs in the last 2 days, they would be frankly right in line with where the model says they are today, but they're not. And that's why I have, a quarter unit edge essentially on this game. Next one, we have seen some line movement on. It is one that I bet. Fortunately, whether you win or you lose, I am still getting some line movement. Kansas City Royals are now minus 145 on the road against the Detroit Tigers. This one opened up for the Royals around minus 130 there. So a good 15 cents of movement anyway at this point, maybe 20 depending on from the lowest point. I think they might have even been down to minus 125 at one point. But between 15 and 20 cents of movement here. I've already given this play out on the Sportsline Early Edge today. I am on the Royals minus 1.5 plus 125. That unfortunately is also moved. They are now minus 1.5 plus 110. Not as attractive.
No. Now it's crazy. So, I use a couple different trackers to look at like how odds shift during the day. And on the action tracker, there is quite literally a jump from 135 all the way to like 150, minus 150 for the Royals. And I know like that was right around like when you were letting go that you were on that pick. And something just like, you want to talk about market movers like that. That is some of the craziest movement I think I've seen in like a week, like a 10-cent jump across books in maybe like 2 minutes. So, I mean, good job, man. You got it in before that happened. So,
it's it triggers a lot of things too. It's obviously not just me. There's obviously other people out there betting it. But I am, putting $1,000 mostly on a unit on a game spread out across a couple different books. And at the same time, I'm sharing that obviously with the Discord server. I have no clue what everyone else's unit size looks like, but in those situations when a number is getting hit by 15 to 20 to 200, 300, 400 accounts in some instances, when obviously when we're winning, there are so many people that are following, putting that bet in. Even the $20 to $100 bets, if you're dropping 100 of those within a 60-second window, it will 110% get flagged at a sportsbook.
No, I mean, it's you have to understand that the way that the sportsbook sort of works and operates and tries to balance money coming in. So when you do have like quote unquote a sharp group, if you will, of people who pay for the information that you provide, it does say, they have systems that are in place to let them know that a whole bunch of people are starting to flood on this line, and they can justify raising the price and probably still keep getting money on it. So that's how
smart.
It works.
But 100%. Do you have thoughts on the game? This one, the total sitting at 8 runs with the minus 115 towards the over.
I mean, this is crazy. I mean, again, I don't always trust every single number action that puts in front of my screen, which I do keep up over here when we're talking. But it has 96% of the public on the Kansas City run line. I don't think that's true. My guess is that it's probably exaggerated by 15 to 20%, but that's still pretty stark. It's funny. I made the mistake of betting the Kansas City Royals last night, and I maintain that it was a mistake because, they came back and they blew it, which was terrible. I would rather lose in a blowout. I'd rather them have stayed at 7-0, and I didn't have to get all excited and whatever. But nonetheless, I don't know if that is the type of like performance that you're like, oh, they're back. Like that was still pretty defeating and probably almost worse for them too. So
Yep.
I don't know. Detroit's been hot. And people were like on Twitter last night were saying, wow, they're making Detroit look good. And well, if you actually look at Detroit's last couple games, Detroit's making Detroit look good. So I think this is an overplay. Detroit scored 7, 7, 3, 9, and 5 or 6 in its last 5. So these are not, or 8, 7. So these are not jokes. I think Detroit puts up some runs again. I think this is an overplay for me with the Kansas City line for you.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. So I do have slight edge on the over as well. A little stunned that the market hasn't moved this one to 8.5, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think that we're obviously either betting the market as a whole is betting on Danny Duffy continuing to be very good, keeping the ball in the yard, and then betting on some positive regression in any way for Casey Mize. While I do think Mize is a talented pitcher, I think that, again, with the expected data, we've seen a large enough sample size now with the starting pitcher, especially someone like Mize here. We're seeing expected numbers that are still 30 to 40 points worse than his actual 338 expected weighted on base average. Anytime you're getting into the 370s, 360s, 370s on the expected number, not striking out more than 7 to 8 batters per 9 innings, walking more than 3 per 9 innings, there's some pretty glaring signs there for me. So giving this Royals lineup, we know the Tigers bullpen isn't anything to write home about either. So giving them the ninth inning team at bat for the Kansas City side. Weather conditions overall not bad for Detroit. It's an overplay for me too. Right now it's about 0.3 of a unit. I haven't decided if I want to start giving those out to everyone. I'm playing all of the little plays like that just because it's so difficult to get that message across. And I really want people to play the correct unit size.
Right. And so what Mike's talking about, right? And I follow a couple of cappers who will do this. Like you'll see them put out a line one day and you're like, wait, why are you only putting 0.4 on this? And the idea is that it corresponds to the edge that you have. So it allows you to like stay the most profitable. If you're putting a flat unit on every edge, it gets kind of difficult to play every single one. And usually a handicapper like myself sets like a limit where I don't play things at all until they reach a threshold. And then I say, okay, I'm comfortable at my full unit at this threshold. But some people who truly like trust everything their model does, like Mike deserves to, gets to say, you know, no, this small edge deserves a 0.25 play today. And we roll with it all year.
Yep. And like I said, I might start publishing all of those for everyone there. It's a very difficult thing to get people to understand and actually follow it. Otherwise, you'll get all sorts of feedback, whether positive or negative. And it's just something that at current times, it's not always worth dealing with that. But we're getting there. We're definitely getting there by having shows like this and educating. We're hopefully going to make you at least smarter in some way, shape, or form.
We'll sound like a broken record a little, but it's okay.
Oh, for sure. I will absolutely sound like a broken record. But eventually you guys will understand it. You will learn. You will be a lot better. You will be happier. And the other thing I should say while we're on this little rant here, sports betting is difficult. It is hard. It is not the easiest way in the world to make money. If your goal is to make a shitload of money, I highly recommend trying something other than sports betting. It is the edges are very, very, very small. It is a really fun way to make money, a really fun way to try to make money. It's awesome, but it is difficult. And the edges and the margins, even for winning players, are significantly smaller than the average, than the public thinks. And it's important to recognize that, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, some of the best cappers will have like a plus 20 to 30 unit season. And like you need to step back and most people who understand the business are like, wow. Because, you know, that's pretty steady and you're just as likely to end up at 47% as you are at 53. If you really play the long odds game, which we all like to, and we all have to. So, you know, look, it's a grind. It's why we preach bankroll management to the point where, you are betting what you are comfortable losing. You don't want to overextend. You don't want to be chasing wins. You want to keep, one of the best pieces of financial advice I've ever heard, and it applies to anything with money, is you want to keep fear and greed out of it, right? Like we play here, we don't sit here with a numbers background for nothing. We play numbers and science and math to the best of our abilities, and we try to cut out that human element because it's probably more likely to be wrong than the data side. So,
yeah, without a doubt. All right, let's move on to this next one because I
Yes.
think we might have some opinions on
let's
this
do it.
one. Toronto Blue Jays. They are currently plus 102. Let's grab William Hill again for just some consistency.
Yeah, we like consistency.
Plus 101 on William Hill, minus 111 for the Atlanta Braves. The total down to 7.5 on William Hill. Minus 115 on the over on that one, but the total has dropped to 7.5. Give me some thoughts on this one. I know you have some.
Yeah. So, I mean, the over opened at 8.5 this morning and has been steadily dropping. I don't trust the market on over under movement. I really don't. I will go with my analysis every single time. I'm on the over here. I do think that they're going to be able to score some runs on Atlanta pitcher. I'm forgetting his name. Atlanta pitcher Max Fried. Yeah, so I think that he's going to give up a couple, and Toronto's been hitting well, and they do hit well, and they do hit well in parks like this. They've been especially effective at their, spring training home park for this year, and I think that, Truist is one of my favorite places to play in over. It actually, in the last 2 games, has seen 50% of its unders of the whole season. So of the 4 unders that have ever occurred there this year, 2 of them have been in the last 2 games. So we are just due, this is just a hitting park. And I also really like the Blue Jays. And I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong, and I'm okay with it. But I think Hyun-Jin Ryu puts the ball on the ground, doesn't induce a lot of hard contact, and he's going to give the Jays a good chance to win this one.
Yeah, I like the analysis. I really do. 7.5 runs is incredibly low for the overall hitting environment. I will say that I think 8 is an appropriate number on this day in particular. I think it's I think it's fine to go over. I would actually be quite comfortable taking the over at 8 just because it is a number that is one that I think could get you to extra innings pretty quickly as well, which is going to be a good thing. But the weather is slightly concerning to me. You look at the VMI, massive negative for both. I don't think I've ever seen the air density at 69, air density index around 69 to 70 in Atlanta. It's just oddly cold, right? 52 degrees. 52 degrees in almost mid-May in Atlanta is a little concerning. That's just very unusual at that point. So need to factor that in a little bit. Obviously, the Blue Jays taking the league shift, going to lose the designated hitter. Not insignificant.
No.
But Max Fried has definitely struggled. The Atlanta Braves, still one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball against left-handed pitching so far. I think that does not continue, as I've told you, everyone, which does lend itself well to your over. I might end up with a play on the game on the over 7.5. But I'm probably going to watch and see if it keeps falling. I don't anticipate it falling to 7, but at minus 115, there's a chance I might get it back down to minus 110, minus 105.
I mean, the over at minus 116. Yeah, if it keeps moving, I have it at 7.5, which is nice. I think I got it right when it hit. My odds probably aren't as great as you're probably going to see closer to first pitch, but look, what are you going to do? Again, I think we saw yesterday with that Giants game that was trending towards the over that we stayed well under. And, it's just, it's usual. The market isn't always right with this stuff. So look, it's going to be a good game. I think that when you see lines both under 120 on either side, you usually know that the books don't really know who has a huge edge, and they're more likely responding to the money flows. So, In that case, it's going to be your favorite style of analysis in order to pick the game. And if you really feel like you have an edge, then grab it. So I'm on Ryu. He's been super consistent for the last couple of years. I think that he does what he does, and he keeps the ball on the ground tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna fight you on the analysis part of it at all. I'm gonna continue to bet on the Atlanta Braves not being the worst team in baseball behind the Tigers.
Yeah,
against left-handed pitching. Next game, Cardinals and Brewers. Brewers 177 over the Cardinals, plus 162 for St. Louis. Total sitting at 7.5 with a minus 120 on the under in this game. Do we have, let's see, was there any movement? Yeah, there's been some extreme movement in this one. Brewers open minus 160. We've seen a full 15 cents of movement in the favor of the Brewers. And then looking at the total, yeah, this one, total's kind of one spot, but that's wild movement there.
Yeah, I mean, and it opened at 160 for the Brewers, but it dropped to minus 150 almost instantly, and then has been steadily rising from 150 to where we're seeing it now. So that opening line isn't even giving you the whole picture. It's been a steady increase on price for the Brewers team, which, I mean, that's creating some real value on a St. Louis team that does have a lot of momentum right now. They won the first game. They swept the Rockies. I know people probably are sitting there scared of John Gant and how he looked against the Mets in that awful inning where he walked the bases loaded. But I think it's also Woodruff, right? So
for sure,
man, over doesn't seem like the play at all. There's a reason the price is juiced to the under. I'd have to play the under, and I probably wouldn't touch the money line on either side.
Yeah, I definitely can't touch the money line at that point. I think that minus 163 would have been my efficient number in the market, which is kind of where it, in theory, opened. Got bet the other way, hit the other way on the Cardinals a little bit. But, man, talk about a bad beat. Last night, did you see what happened in this game?
I did. It was ridiculous. I mean, I feel for any underbetter. I mean, I think people had it at 7-2, and it was 1-1.
1-1 in extra innings, and then a 5-run top of the inning in extras for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right? It's just rough. I mean, and that's going to happen so much more than I feel like the numbers are going to tell us it's going to. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it's so much about that human element and about that late game and the pressure situation. And you don't have a normal entrance for these relievers who are used to a certain process. I mean, how many times do these guys come in with a man on second and no outs and do well? It is not a situation that a pitcher does well in, and it has been shown time and time again that on both sides of the ball, once you start scoring, it's easier to keep pouring it on. There's rallies in baseball for multiple reasons, right? And it's just you're inviting rally ball, you're inviting huge 4 to 5 run innings. Unders beware, man. It is scary out there for a tie game under.
Yep. It most definitely is. And we talked about it before. I'm going to share it on Twitter today. And I've got some stuff that I'm going to be putting up on the Number Edge site as well to let you guys see some of this data a little more. But the run expectancy is just insane, right? The run expectancy with a runner at second base and no outs is over a full run. You know that mentally as a pitcher, especially in this day where we are talking about analytics, you're literally a relief pitcher coming into that game knows that when I take the ball from you, I've given up 1.1 runs already. Mentally, that is a very weird thing.
Yeah, and it's more likely to have 2 runs than 0, right? At the same time. If you really dive into those numbers, that's where we're at. So, it's just sort of the new way to do it. I don't know if books are going to adjust by offering first 9 inning totals. We might need it. And then, a little bit of a different line on the under, maybe better odds on the under if you're playing with extras, because how are you going to adjust? I mean, this is a significant advantage to overs. Non-zero number of games go to extras, and especially with the baseballs not leaving the park as much, you're not getting as big of a run discrepancy in terms of like expected results in games. So you're going to see more tie games with less scoring, but I digress.
Brutal spot. All right, let's quickly move through the remaining games. Just do an overview, see if you have any thoughts on them. I'll just mention the game. Minnesota, Chicago White Sox. Any thoughts here? Minnesota is a plus 125 underdog with Happ on the mound. Threw a no hitter last time out, right?
Yeah.
I believe.
White Sox hot. Probably one of the hottest teams in baseball, maybe one of the best teams in baseball right now. A couple of the leaders in average and hitting on their team. They're not really doing it with their power yet, but it's going to come. Keuchel is one of the best ground ball pitchers in baseball. If he's on, that ball is barely leaving the infield. I took an over on him last time, and I got burned. I'm sure if I used my heart and chased it and took an under today, I'd probably lose. So based on totally fading my gut, I'm going to say that this goes over. But again, that's not an actual play. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say White Sox and over here, just taking the fading of Happ and the fading of Keuchel because he pitched so well last time.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a negative VMI for the White Sox as well, even at home here. I wouldn't play anything on this game.
Yeah.
There's just no reason to. Next game on the board has seen massive line movement. It seems to be a very clear sharp side. In fact, one of the more sharp sides we've seen really in recent memory for me in terms of reading the market on it. And that's going to be the Los Angeles Angels. They opened at plus 125 in this game. They're sitting at plus 110. Andrew Heaney, the left on the mound against Euquidry. Houston Astros there. We talked about this one last night. The game did end up going. I don't know if I need to point that out to you or not. I think you saw. But this one, massive movement. Even with that movement, just some of the betting data that we see right now, we're still seeing almost 60% of the action coming in on the Astros, 65% of the money coming in on the Angels, which is what's led to the 15 cents of movement.
That's a big deal.
Agree with this or not?
I don't know that I do. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that the Astros have a good shot to pull this off, and I think I do agree with the opening line a little bit more. I think the values on the total. These teams didn't score that much last night, and I think that we probably see a little bit more of that tonight. The pitching quality isn't nearly as good as it was yesterday. So,
yeah, that is pretty much echoes my thoughts exactly. The only thing I would add on there is I do expect this Astros lineup, similar to the Atlanta Braves, to continue to improve against left-handed pitching as the season goes on. They have some real lefty mashers in the lineup, and two of the lefties also do not show traditional left versus right platoon splits. So I expect them to be very good against left-handed pitching at some point in the season. So while I respect the market's movement here, I don't necessarily completely agree with it. The over is definitely the lean. If it moves to 8, I would take the over.
Mets have put 4 on the Baltimore Orioles.
I see that. Wow.
Amazing. Anyway, I think we've got 2 more games left. So next is Miami and the Diamondbacks. Gallen going against Daniel Castano for the Marlins. I'm a big Gallen guy. I like the kid. I'm not paying the price, though.
Yeah, I think this one, if you wanted to play it, you would have needed to do that last night. We've seen pretty healthy movement here, a good 15 cents on this one as well.
120, apparently. I don't even know how long that was available for, but man, that is some movement.
Yeah, I would say that this one was only available for a few minutes when that one opens. There might have been a pitching change here. I don't know if Castano was
the opening pitcher.
The opening pitcher. I'd have to look. If so, that's absolutely insane movement. Either way, I can't pay that price for this team. Pretty easy pass for me.
Yeah.
And then last game, Seattle. What a heartbreaker that was last night. Just absolutely miserable, especially losing a plus 200 play.
We had it. We had it, man. We had it. And my East Coast butt went to bed. Not by my own choice, but I wake up, 30 minutes after the game ends on the couch, and I see a red X on my tracker, and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. And and I'm sitting there like, okay, chances are Dodgers win this. Do I trust myself? Do I bet out? The classic dilemma, and I let it rock. So you could have gotten plus money on the Dodgers for a minute or two there, and why not just anchor it in?
Yep.
Oh man, but it's okay. I think they do it tonight. I think they do it tonight. They were so close. They got a little unlucky. That ball left the park. I think they do it tonight. I'd sprinkle. But
yeah, you're getting plus 220 tonight. A little better number than you got last night. I actually stayed up and watched the end of that one. Mookie got called out on a terrible strike 3 call that I thought he was, going to clear the bases and essentially get that for them. Seager got the 2 runs in, but they ended the inning ahead still. And at that point, I thought, okay, they're probably going to hang on to win this one. That just sucked.
Brutal.
Absolutely.
But all right. Hopefully it's a little bit better day.
Yeah, it's going to be a better day today. We'll see you guys all on Twitter, on Discord. Tomorrow, I believe, Justin, you'll be over on a Sportsline stream, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, are we going to still be here too? We'll still run this for like a short, maybe quick show.
We'll do a much shorter show tomorrow. We won't cover it in. We'll probably just hit on some of the major market movement that we'll have seen at that point. I might share on the screen a few of the tools and some of the data that I'm going to be putting on the Number Edge site later this afternoon.
But I will be on the early edge with Mike here, and I believe Coach, which is very exciting for me. I think it's at is it 5 Eastern?
I honestly haven't even looked at the schedule, but I think that's probably right. I think it's 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll fire that stream up for at least an hour, and that'll be a good time. We'll get off topic there too. So drop any questions in there you want. That one's going to be
a fun one.
Very fun, very entertaining. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you guys around.
Peace.